Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And warm greetings for all of us, the Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Education, Universitas Islam International Indonesia, Prof. Nina Nurmila, PhD, and our distinguished speaker today, Ibu Yanuar Farida Wismayanti, SST, MA, PhD, Head of Research Center for Public Policy at Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional Republik Indonesia, and then respected lecturers and academic staff of the Faculty of Education, dear PhD and master students at IIU, and distinguished guests, researchers, and participants. Welcome to Lunch Talk 53, the Faculty of Education, Universitas Islam International Indonesia, with the theme Safeguarding Children in Educational Research Beyond Consent and Towards Ethical Practice. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to express our sincere gratitude for your presence and participation today in academic conversation. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sarah, and I'm honored to serve as the moderator for today, Lunch Talk 53. And then, ladies and gentlemen, today's topic is both intellectually important and ethically urgent. In many educational studies, children are often described as participant learners, informant, and also become beneficiaries of research. More recently, Solar and practitioners have also emphasized that children's voice matter and that their involvement in research can be empowering. Yet, as our theme reminds us today, participation alone is not enough when research involves children. This raises several important questions. Do children's voice genuinely count in research? Ladies and gentlemen, to formally open today's lunch talk, it is our great honor to invite the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Universitas Islam International Indonesia, to deliver her opening remarks. Please join me in warmly welcoming Prof. Nina Nurmila, PhD. Prof. Nina, the time is yours.
Test, okay. I think I need your help to put the podium here. Thank you. Babang Olo.
Oh, that's okay, Bu.
Okay, so it's okay? Ya, ke sini biar ada background-nya education. Thank you Ridwan. Oke, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin sayyidil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du. First I would like to welcome I don't want to be mistaken in spelling your name. Our speaker today, Dr. Yanuar Farida Wismayanti, PhD. She is the head of Research Center for Public Policy Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional BRIN, for accepting our invitation to speak this afternoon to our students. This is very important topic, about safeguarding children in educational research beyond consent and toward ethical practice. I think ethical issues are very important because all our students in the Faculty of Education, both MA and PhD, collect the data from the field. Some of their research involve children. So your speech today is very important for us. And we also share the information about our lunch talk today, not only within our students here offline, but also we open to public online. I share the information, for example, on my network for the Islamic higher education, because not all the university in Indonesia have ethical committee. We are lucky that even though IIU is newly established university, we already have ethical committee. So the PhD students and the lecturers can apply for ethical approval through ethic committee. And for the master students, due to limited resources of reviewer, we rely on both of supervisors in order they can suggest to be ethical, yeah, in doing research. Well, for those of you who do not know yet that research has been like conducted so from many years ago, and the one who has developed first is like exact science, medical science, but the researchers at that time, before we have ethical approval or ethical committee, they do just, I mean, when they do research, they just do research. But some of the sociologists also, when they do research, they didn't ask the consent of the research participants to be like as natural as possible. But some people, well, were not comfortable being like questioned without knowing why do you ask me a question, for what purpose, yeah. That's why by having ethical approval, there is a guideline that you need to follow. Like for example, you need to introduce yourself and what is your research purpose, and that whether your research, whether the research participants is voluntary, and then the protection of anonymity and confidentiality, etc. So, well, this is need to be considered, yeah, in doing research, yeah. And I was doing research on like very, very sensitive issue like about divorce, polygamy, when people can just talk freely. But when I introduce that I'm doing research, they go like, oh, so there is a dilemma, yeah, for the researcher between expressing, looking for, or explaining, or doing the, what's that, plain language statement, the information about our research first before questioning or before interviewing our research participants. And when we are doing formally, like, okay, we introduce ourselves, here is the purpose, and then people might react differently from if we don't do such a prologue, okay? Okay, and the children here, I would like to highlight about the topic today because this is about children. What it means by children is people under 18, yeah, and they do not, they are not able to give a consent directly as a children. So it is the guardian that need to give the consent, yeah, on behalf of the children, because and children are very like, well, fragile and vulnerable. That's why they are maybe there's a tendency that they can be exploited without them knowing about that exploitation. That's why we need to safeguard the interests of our children. And you will learn today from Dr. Yanti more details about this information. So I'm looking forward also to listening to your speech. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Nina, for your inspiring opening remarks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for today. Please. Let me introduce our speaker today, Dr. Yanuar Parida Wismayanti, widely known as Dr. Yanti. She is currently the head of Research Center for Public Policy at BRIN since April 2022. And then she has served in this strategic leadership position while also continuing her role as researcher at BRIN. And then also before joining BRIN, Dr. Yanti had a long and significant career at Ministry of Social Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, where she worked as researcher for almost 17 years. And then also her professional journey also include important field-based experience with PLAN International, where she worked as a project officer from 2001 to 2025 in Surabaya, and also in Kids Helpline Project, and also in Children in Need of Special Protection Program, and also served as a community transformation agent with PLAN International in Gunung Kidul, Yogyakarta. And then also she has a very great academic background. Dr. Yanti earned her Doctor of Philosophy in Human Service and Social Work from Griffith University, Australia, and then also hold a Master of Art Anthropology from UGM. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Yanti is an academic and professional profile brings together for like public policy, anthropology, social work, children rights, and also social protection, research ethics. And then this is very interesting. Today she will speak on the safeguarding children in educational research beyond consent and towards ethical practice. In this session, she will explain how safeguarding children in research should be understood through a child rights lens. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Yanwar Farida Wismayanti. Dr. Yanti, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to invite me today, and thank you, Ibu Din. It's already open this. I think maybe yeah. And thank you for all the participants that already come to this beautiful building. Yeah, I think this is the first time I come to this university, and yeah, it's a wonderful, it's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mbak Sarah. Also already introduced me, and yeah, and maybe we already hear from Ibu Din, Prof. Nina, that already mentioned and they already highlight why the ethical clearance is important. I think this is the important thing that to start discuss today. And I think today I will share about my experience because I already know all of the participants and here also have the experience working with the children and working with the student, especially because this is the Faculty of Social Education. So I think of the lecture and also the student already have the experience in working with the children. Okay, this topic today is conducting research with children and other vulnerable groups. We will discuss about the ethic, protection, privacy, and respect in research practice. Okay, next. Oh yeah, maybe this is the picture made my children, and I also already get the approval from them to to put this picture in my presentation. They are, I think, she made when she in the primary school maybe, so a long time ago. Yeah. Okay. Next. Okay. Next. Okay. Maybe we can go to the next slide, and I will discuss about why ethical research matters. So that's why it's very important, and I think Prof. Nina has already also mentioned why ethical research is important for our research, because especially for children and vulnerable group. But I think it's all of the participant is very important to get the ethical research when we will collecting the data. So in our topic, because children and vulnerable groups may face higher risk of exploitation or harm. So that's why it's very important to get the ethical clearance. And another thing is about protection principles should guide all stages of research, from start. So from the preparation after the end of the research, it's very important to make sure that they make sure that they save from when we collect the data from them, I mean. And researchers also must prioritize dignity, safety, and well-being. And ethical research strengthens trust and improve data quality. Okay, maybe after that I will also have some, yeah, next. The core ethical principle is very important. Maybe why this is very important, because it's needed data respect, informed consent. Maybe we can talk later about informed consent and what the type of the informed consent, and maybe we can sharing also with all of the participants. Maybe they also have another experience about the informed consent, and why this is very important, because it's to protect children from any abuse, from any, because for example, if we will conducting the research, for example, I have an experience working with the children and get the research with them on child sexual abuse, or children with a sexual exploitation. Yeah, I also have working with them. So the topic is very sensitive, and also I have experience working on survey on violence against children, a national survey in Indonesia. Actually, we are not got the data from the children, but they will call their experience when they children. So sometimes it's like open they traumatic again, maybe when they children. So sometimes, so that's why we make sure about the child protection, privacy, and confidentiality. This is very important about the privacy and confidentiality, because sometimes they don't want to talk about their experience, because it's maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and sometimes it's very difficult to them to recall, and sometimes it's like open their traumatic again. Yeah, so that's why it's very important about the principle if we are working with the children and also the other vulnerability group. Okay, next. Yeah, this is so all of the children, maybe in my experience, before we are conducting the research, we should have ethical clearance. Ibu Dian has already mentioned, and you double three. You triple IU, yeah, okay. Has already have a ethical committee, Ibu, yeah. Yeah, that's great. So all of the students that we are doing research, this is should have ethical clearance. So this is I think it's a good, and maybe for the PhD, but for master degree, they got the guarantee from the supervisor. Yeah. But this is the point. The first thing is we should have ethical clearance, all of the research. If we are working with the human, it's not only the children or not only the woman, not only, yeah, if we are working with the human. This is the point, the first point. Sometimes the topic is not, yeah, we're just talking about what the education in Indonesia, and we will talking with the head of the ministry, maybe ministries, or with the head of school. So I think this issue is not sensitive, for example. That is okay. But sometimes the information sometimes like become problem if we publish in the journal, or we already have in our thesis, dissertation, and yeah, in publication, for example. So that's why ethical clearance is very important to protect the researcher also. If we have some problem in our publication, for example, if we already have ethical clearance, it more helpful for us because it protect us from others issues. Yeah. Okay, this is the first thing. And next, in the ethical clearance, they have a lot of requirement, I think, should be filled in their form, and we have a lot of form that we should be fill. And another thing is another form is also about the informed consent. So informed consent is from parents, guardian, or legal representatives, and this is also seek assent directly from children in language they can understand. So there are the type of the informed consent. For example, maybe for the next slide, I have put the example. This is the example of consent form when I'm working with the children in. This is the informed consent is not for the children, but this is only the example. Maybe this is example what which should be state in our informed consent. This is for the our partner when I'm working with the topic in understanding child sexual abuse in Indonesia. But in another thing, if we are working with the children, we also have like informed consent. It's like the informed consent that they can understand. I have another experience working with the children. If sometimes the children is under 10 maybe, or yeah, the topic is not because I have experience working with the children in panti. In panti? Yeah, panti. In panti, yeah. And the children is ranged between 10 until 18, and I have FGD, focus group discussion with them. But before I'm working, I collect the data from them. I have a letter like informed consent like this. And I talking. Sometimes they don't want to read all of them, but we can read also for them, and to make sure some point and explain. For example, when we want to take a picture, we also got the permission, and we also explain what the picture and what the data we will use. So if they don't want to their picture published in our research, we should respect also. Yeah. So this is the example consent form, but this example is have a lot of item, but we also have another example that more simple, I think. Yeah, this is the first thing that all of the research, if we are working with the human, children, and others participant, we should have a consent form. Okay, next. Yeah, this is also example response plan. Because child safeguarding response plan is also important. Maybe I will move to the next slide, and I will talk later about this. About the ethical and safety recommendation for domestic violence research. That's why the topic is very sensitive, so that's why we should have some item. For example, the issue of violence, child sexual abuse, women violence, domestic violence, and maybe issue others, vulnerable group like disabilities group and others. So the safety of respondent and the research team is important. So this is the important thing that we should make sure about this and should guide all project decision. The second, because the ethical is by WHO, so the prevalence studies need to be methodologically sound and to build upon current research experience. Protecting confidentiality is essential. So, as already mentioned before, we should respect with their confidentiality. And all research team member should be carefully selected and receive specialist training on and ongoing support. So because I have experience working with the children, like a national survey for violence against in Indonesia, and we will interview maybe more than 500 children. So we should have some like training of trainer for the researcher, and so all research team should be have a specialist training for this, because sometimes they like for the sensitive issue we should have important thing that should be guide for this. And the study design must include action aimed at reducing any possible distress caused to the participant by the research. So that's why in the previous slide, we also have a response plan. Response plan with, if we are working with the children or with the women or others group with the sensitive issue, we also have a design the response plan. What the purpose of the response plan? Sometimes the topic is very sensitive, and they recall that I already mentioned, our experience, traumatic, etc. So it's very important. If they have a problem when we are discussing with them, in the middle, sometimes they also crying, for example, yeah, because they remember what they experience about their life. So we should have a response plan. And in maybe next previously slide, please. Yeah, was very, yeah. So in response plan, we have some formula for if we will interview the children, children under 18, I mean, yeah, children under 18, we also got the consent form or approval from the parents. So this is very important. Any issue, any topic, if we want to get the information from the children, we should also get the approval from the parents. So this is very important also. And then another thing, we also have another list. If our issue is very sensitive, we also have like a referral system. List of the referral system if they need help in our research. So when we are doing the violence against survey in Indonesia, because we are working for maybe more than 20 provinces, so we should list all of the referral organization that we can that they can help if the children need support. So we should have like in this form we note like the province and the name of the organization, contact person, and what they concern on the issue that they will help. And yeah, this is the example on a response plan workflow. But it is only for the topic is very sensitive. So this is different. For the research with the children, for example, in a school and with the student, maybe it's a different thing. But if the topic is also have another sensitive issue, at least we should have a contact organization like referral system or psycholog or something like this, just to make sure if yeah, we are not safe with our question. Okay, this is some example of response plan and some form that we can use if we are working with the children, a woman, and also another group that they have with the sensitive issue. Okay, next. Yeah, so I think this is already mentioned about the researcher and yeah. Okay, next. Yeah, so why is very important? Because it's protecting the rights of children. So that's why we should have a informed consent. Why should we ask the parents to get approval? Why? Yeah, because it's to protect the right of children. This is the very important. We should respect to the children, even though they are also student in our school, maybe because maybe some the PhD student here they are a teacher or lecturer like Mbak Sarah maybe, and they working with the children in their school and also maybe in the community. So we should respect the best interest of the child, and also avoid question or activities that may re-traumatize participant. Yeah, maybe we just ask, what's your experience when are you in the kindergarten maybe, or in the primary school, if you are working with your friends, and sometimes they have a bullying or something like this, yeah. So maybe it can recall the traumatized participant. And also, they already mentioned, provide referral pathways if abuse or distress is identified. So if we are working with them and we interview them, and in the middle of our interview, they have issues about our question, so we should prepare about referral pathways. If we identified the distress or other issues. So another thing is ensure safe and supportive interview environment. So sometimes we are working with the children in the school, for example, and with the teacher, with the head of the school, for example, we have some discussion with them. So that's why in our strategy, if we will get the information from the children, we have like working in the small group. Because sometimes as we are working with children and with the teacher, sometimes the children can open everything. Because sometimes, because in this room, for example, in this room, if we also discuss with the children, with the teacher in the one room, sometimes they also like afraid to open everything. Yeah. So that's why we should be ensure safe and supportive interview environment. Okay, next. Yeah. Privacy, confidentiality, and data protection. I think, this is the important thing if we are working with them. Even the topic is not sensitive, use anonym or code participant data, because we found the journal that they mentioned the name, exactly name, and also the address of the school in the journal. Yeah, so I think this is important thing, because sometimes so they make sure about this methodology. In the methodology and analysis, how to anonym, and also the code participant data, and how to analyze the data. and store sensitive data securely with restricted access. I think this is also important. Sometimes, yeah, this is, we just put in our laptop and our, yeah, but sometimes all of the people, they can access this data, so we should make sure about the sensitive data is secure. Avoid sharing identifiable photos, names, or location. Nah, so, but can we share the photos or the activity with our interviewers? Is it possible? Is it possible? But we should make sure to get the approval from them. When we get, I already mentioned before, we need instant confirm. So if we already have this, I think is it possible to us to sharing the information, names or location, but it should be considering about their safety and others. Because sometimes when I working with our college, they after they got collecting data in some areas, they take a picture in the social media, or because we're working with children, yeah, and a woman and all the other vulnerable groups, and they post in the social media or in WhatsApp, or sometimes they only sharing to WhatsApp group in family. Sometimes because sometimes I found this issues, and the thinking is, yeah, this is only family, for example, or this is only my group. But we should make sure to this member, this is a confidential. Yeah, sometimes we just thinking about, yeah, that's okay. We just like share with our colleagues. But sometimes all of the participants, all of the colleagues in this group, they don't know about the sensitive issues. And then next is about the explain clearly how data will be used and protected. I think it's the same with how to save the data and how will be used and protect, for example, and how to use the data analysis and publish the information. Okay, next. Yeah, this is the inclusive and respectful research approach. So use culturally sensitive communication, adopt method for age, disability, or literary level, encourage meaningful participant and voice. So we should have here, if our participant is, they like, sometimes they don't like with our question, or they not make sure about the sentence. Yeah, sometimes it's our discuss with them, sometimes have like lack of language because they have a different culture, for example. So we should respect also in if we are doing research with children, women, and others participants. And also recognize power imbalance between researchers and participants. I think it's very important, because if we are collecting data with our interviewer or all of the participants, sometimes we should make not a different position. This is to have a same position, or maybe we need learn from them. So we should be like to be working together with between researcher and also participant. So we should also hear what they want, what they condition. Sometimes we only have 2 hours to doing research to get the collecting data with them, but maybe our participant is already tired, or maybe they have another activities. So we should make sure with them about this. But if we already have consent form in the we are starting our research, I think it's more clear because yeah, maybe we will discuss with you for 2 hours or 1 hour, or maybe we have a lot of questions, but maybe we can collecting data maybe for 3 days, and maybe is it okay if we will go back to you maybe 3 days later or sometimes like this. So it's like make a commitment between a researcher and a participant. So this is need a commitment. Okay, next. Yeah, so risk management in field research. So the conduct risk assessment before data collection. So we should thinking about and identify what the risk assessment before data collection. Yeah, if the issue is sensitive, we already have the response plan, for example. Or if we have a lot of questions, we should prepare about the timing. Maybe we can collecting data not only for 1 day, but maybe we need 5 days for one participant maybe, because we want to get an in-depth interview, deep information from our participants. So maybe we need time more than 1 day, for example. So if we need clarify another information, we will coming again to our participant. So this is we should have identify the risk assessments and prepare safeguarding protocol for emergency. I think this is the examples is already mentioned about the response plan workflows. How to work with the children, women, and also vulnerable groups. And then train research teams on child protection and ethics. So all of the member of the researchers should have a same perspective, same ideas. So yeah, not like sometimes because in the one team, they have a different perspective about how to work with the children, women, and also. So we should have a training to how to collecting data with the children, women, and also other participants. And also monitor emotional distress during interview or observation, that's already mentioned. If we are working with the children or women with the sensitive issue, we also have like a logbook or some like a note about their emotional distress, or maybe we can observe if we are working with them and we make a note. This is a part of our observation if we are collecting data with them. So this is also our commitment how to understand our participant. Yeah, okay, next I think the last, yeah. This is the practical ethical checklist. So the first thing I just remember again about the ethical approval, informed consent, data security, referral and safeguarding mechanism, and research team trained in ethical conducting. So this is the point that we should have practical ethical checklist in our research. So I think we already discussed about this, but this is the checklist that we should have a requirement when we are working with them, and we are research with the children, women, and also all of the participants. I think it's not only the women or children, but all of the participants. This is the checklist that we should be done in our research. Okay, I think last one maybe. Okay, this is the conclusion. So why ethical research is not only about compliance but about responsibility. So this is the important thing. Sometimes yeah, in my experience, when I in doing my research in my bachelor, it's not the important. Yeah, this is yeah. This is not important about the ethical clearance, but after that, yeah, in a master degree and our PhD, and also with the sensitive issue, I think ethical clearance is very important. And all of the research in my organization in BRIN, all of the research with the human should be called the ethical research. And the ethical research is also, they have like a leveling. Maybe if we only get the information, even though we are not collecting data with the human, also we just like discuss with one or two people, discuss with the informant is the like academician, or sometimes we should also get the ethical clearance, but in the leveling, like in hospital, this is the gray. So maybe to get the ethical clearance, maybe we need only 1 week, and the ethical clearance will be got the ethical clearance. Yeah, for example, like this. But for the topic, sensitive topic, for example, we are working with the children, with the sexual issues, or women, maybe we need a more detail. But in BRIN, maybe we can discuss later about the procedure in a BRIN. Children and vulnerable group deserve safety, dignity, and respect. Yeah, and balance knowledge production with human protection, and strong ethical practice improve credibility and social impact. So this is the important thing that we discuss today, and I'm very happy to share. Also to hear from all of the participants about your experience, maybe working with the children or working with the student in the school, also other participants, and maybe we can learn together. Okay, thank you, and thank you, Mbak Sarah. Maybe we can discuss.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yanti, for your presentation. And then I believe many of us here, especially students and researchers working in education, childhood studies, social policy, and also about anthropology, psychology, in qualitative research, very need this one. And ladies and gentlemen, we will now open to the question and answer session. And for this session, we will take like 3 question from participant. But before I invite you to ask the question, allow me to kindly remind that when you are asking the question, please mention your name, and also for those joining in online, you may also write your question in the chat box, and we will try to accommodate depending on the available time. And now we will take the first question. Yes, Pak Ridwan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for the opportunity, Bu Sarah. Bu Yanti, let me introduce myself. My name is Ridwan. I'm a PhD student, and this is quite a recent discussion about ethics and protocols. About 2 hours ago, I think, we discussed. It's very recent. So my question, I have 2 questions. The first one about ethics. Does ethics on research has a global agreement about what kind of ethics? For example, in order to maintain our anonymity, our respondents' anonymity, I've been experienced discussing with my research colleague about how we present the anonymity. For example, there's one of my colleagues said that to maintain anonymity, if the person name, for example, my name, I'm Ridwan Sutisna, and then it's enough to mention as the abbreviate, the initials, MRS, the initial. But my other colleague said, that's still obvious. That's still too obvious to use MRS as anonymity, because if the context is known by someone, and then MRS can be identified. So it is recommended by other colleague to mention that use as another. We have to code it into something very specific contextual. For example, respondent 1. It preferred like that rather than use the abbreviation MRS. That was my first question. Thus, the ethical on research has a global standard or the same understanding or agreements, some kind of that we can refer. This university can refer, as a researcher also can refer that this is, we are referring to this version of ethical procedure. The second one about protocols. In our class 2 hours ago, it's been discussed also about what if the data, the respondent or the participant that we are included in our research suddenly acting differently. Different, that means, is it becoming a bias, or even extremely they are cancel their consent. I'm no longer want to involve in this research. However, the data we have already get the data previously from previous interaction, and the data is quite important for our research. How we can deal with such of situation? What protocols can we through to overcome this kind of things? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Ridwan. Dr. Yanti, would you like to answer?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Maybe it's not another participant also can sharing about the experience, yeah, because this is the quite difficult question. Okay, but the first is about the anonym, about the how to I think how to report our result, yeah. In the ethical clearance or in the global issues about the ethical clearance, is that the anonym is a different between other universities, or maybe in my experience, but especially for the specific issues or for the sensitive issue, we should make sure the initial and we should, it's difficult to track for the sensitive issue to make sure. For example, sometimes I found in my experience I'm using my anonym is about the alphabet A, B, C, or P, D, etc. But in another dissertation or thesis, they also can use the name synonym. Anonym. Yeah, synonym. Like bunga or something like this. Is the for the sensitive issue. It's okay. We can use like the real name is Yanti, but they can use Mawar, for example. This is like in the Kompas previously. Yeah, yeah, it's okay, but it's not exactly the real name. I also have another experience when I'm working with the Batra Foundation because we are working with the children with sexual exploitation, and one of the Bandung Post, yeah, media in Bandung, they come to my organization. I'm working in Bahtera, and they interview these children. But at the moment, I don't know about the ethical clearance. This is my experience, yeah, it's my experience. And they take a picture from the back, yeah, and after that they put the picture in the Bandung Post or something. I forgot, but like silhouette, yeah, it's not the real picture. And they already also the anonym. The name is also it's already make the synonym anonymous. But the story is the real. And finally, the family found it. This is these children. This already. Oh my God! I remember about this because the children is already maybe 2 years. Is already went from their house and they working in Bandung and the prostitution, yeah. And when we are working with them and we are working with this program, they already are pregnant, yeah. And this all of the story mentioned in this media, and finally the family found it. Yeah, is it good because they can? Another thing, yeah, this is good or bad? That is a good question. Because this is our program, how to reintegrate the children with the family. Is it a good? Because finally we found the family. But another thing, the children is very upset. Yeah, very upset. Because finally all of the family, maybe they friends know about this situation. This is very, yeah. But this is the different with our, yeah, because research and this is the program, yeah, because how to protect the children from any sexual abuse. But this is the reality that in my experience. Why we should protect children from, yeah. Information is very important. Confidentiality is very important for our participant. So, how about the standard, global standard? Yeah, as long as they save from any information, this is we should respect and save them. Okay, this is the sensitive issue or the very, yeah. But another experience, if we also have another interview with for example, our research about how to protect children from any violence, about we talking about the policy and regulation. Sometimes we interview the head of directorate in Ministry of Social Affairs or Ministry of Women and Empowerment, or yeah, for example like this. Sometimes they also have like contradiction approach. So that's why we should also respect with our interviewer, with our participant, I mean, with my participant. So that's why we should like make a anonym also. Yeah, this is my experience if we are working with them. And also we have another experience working with BRIN. Previously, maybe Pak Lukman, I found Pak Lukman. Maybe they can also sharing about our experience. In this research, the topic is about the, what is it, some communities in, what is it, komunitas adat indigenous, indigenous people, indigenous people. And because sometimes the indigenous group in this area, sometimes we don't agree with our statement because sometimes because we already interview and we conclude that this indigenous people group blah 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 blah, and finally this is also have ethical issues also because this indigenous group they don't agree with our information in the journal publication. For example, like this. So that's why it's very important to make sure about the information and other things. And also another experience, if we are working with the issue of national survey on violence against children, because I'm working with UNICEF, CDC in America, and also others global organization. If we are working with them or with the Save the Children, Plan International, I also have another experience. For example, in violence, we found the violence in pantis or in the panti in Ministry of Social Affairs. Yeah, we found also have a violence and also others regulation that not make sure that the children safe. But sometimes, as an Indonesian researcher, I don't share any information for the global issue, for the global organization, also global research, because we also have to protect our protect some information, I think, that maybe also danger for them, danger for the organization also. Yeah, maybe sometimes it's like very important for researcher to make sure our position, because we are a researcher that support the organization or our country can solve their problem, but it's not like what is it? It's not inform our finding, because it's also ethical issues kan in our research. If we found something but we don't open about this, but we should have another plan, a strategic plan. Maybe these issues not should be published, but should be solve this problem. This is, for example, is in my opinion for us a researcher. Yeah, because in some national research, they also have another agenda. Yeah, this is my opinion, in my opinion. Okay, this is the first question. And the second about the cancellation. Yeah, it is interesting. It's very important, but actually I don't have any experience about this. But the first thing I already mentioned, we have consent form for the first, if we will interview our participant. And in this form is also already mentioned, if you don't want to continue this interview or something like this, yeah, we can finish our collecting data with them. But we already got the important information. How? Yeah, this is from another experience. If we still use the data if we have a problem, if we will publish our finding, this is the problem for us as a researcher. Even though this is information is very important. So another thing, we should get another participant or informant, then and they continue all of the question, and we should respect with their decision if they cancel or they withdraw from our participant to our research. Yeah, this is my experience. Okay, thank you, Pariwan, for your question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yanti. I think it's not about yes or no from the children, but also about how we protect them, like safeguard, they feel free to speak, and then the situation also we'll have to consider about. Okay, now we move to another question. Yes, please. Leo.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Bu Yanti. My name is Leo. I'm PhD student. It is really interesting, like what Pariwan has stated, that we have discussed this part of things since 3 hours ago. It's really interesting. But my questions, like, Paridon is talking about, is there any global standard of ethic? But my question will be like, is there any limitations of ethic itself? For example, in case I would like to interview disabled students, let's say, and I would like to enrich genuine informations within the interview. But then I'm not the one who is actually understood well about the disability or something, at least. I mean, like, I'm not the one who understood completely about the disabled. So possibly I will do like choosing the research assistant who can help me, or I will involve the teacher who understands the student's conditions to help me, or I will involve the parents to have a very genuine information or discussions with the students themselves, or I can just like give, this is the set of questions so you can have it at home. So I would like to have really genuine information. So on how the ethical or the safeguarding of the children itself be applied in these situations. Thank you very much.
Dr. Yanti, would you like to?
Thank you, Bapak Leo, for your question. Mas Leo, yeah, for your question. It's a good question about the limitation ethic and why, if we want to get the information from, maybe we won't get the information from the children, but we should get another information from their parents, maybe this teacher, and also, yeah, this is the important thing. That's okay, as long as we mention in the methodology. Yeah, in the methodology, we should state about this step. So how to get the information? We will get the data from the children, but the limitation, yeah, we can mention about, because we want to know about the activity at home for a whole day, maybe, for example, yeah, and I can stay along with them for 1 day, for example. So we want to get the observe from parents or teacher. I think it's okay, as long as we mention in our methodology. And how about the informed consent? We should have about the informed consent from the children, but we can't do, we're not doing the informed consent directly from the researcher from the children, from researcher directly to the children, but we can get from the parents. It's like the example with, if we are working, for example, I already mentioned, working with the national survey for violence against with the children in Indonesia, for example, but we have 40 researchers but we already have a training with them. I think this is also in this case with Pak Leo, maybe Pak Leo also can discuss with the teachers, also the parents maybe, how to get the data, to get the information, and also how to get the informed consent from the children. And also, we also have a informed consent from the parents, the teacher, because they also will write about their activity if they are working with the children. So I think it's need like first training with all of the participants. So this is all of, I think children, parents, and also teacher is all of the participants. As along we mentioned in our methodology. I also have another experience about this. My college or my student doing PhD about the experience sexual abuse, but we need if the participant if the victim, but we also have another information from their siblings, for example, or their parents. So they also have another information, not only for the victim, not only from the victim, but also from their friends or one of the people they trust or they know about this accidents. I mean, they experience sexual experience. Why? Because the methodology is very important to get another perspective from other people. So I think it's okay to get the information from not directly from the children or from the woman, for example, but we also have another perspective or information from the others. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I have a questions about your PowerPoint. Maybe someone can help to come back about 2 slides, I think in the last 2 slides. But before that, I would like to give additional information to all of you, just in case has been skipped. Dr. Yanti has mentioned about informed consent. Informed consent. Informed consent is the form is being filled by the research participants after being given information. So before we give informed consent to the participants, actually we need to have at least a page. Yeah. Usually in the University of Melbourne, it is the information about the nature of our research and what the researcher going to do with the participants. So that's information about our research, and it is called plain language statement. Yeah, plain language statement is given to the participants before the participants fill in the informed consent. Yeah, someone can return back to the 2 slides. Oh, this one. Okay, you can put it, Sarah. It's about referral. I don't understand yet about the checklist. The checklist. Nggak bisa. Okay. Are you sure you cannot do that? Kenapa? Tadi Dr. Yanti pakai apa dia? Pakai back. Oh, nggak bisa ya, memang nggak bisa. This one. Okay. Yeah, this one. So the practical ethical checklist. So I would like to ask, could you explain again about the referral and safeguarding mechanism available? Yeah. And Ibu Desina also mentioned about the data security measure established. I think that's about how you store the data in order not to accessible to the public. But I do not know about the referral and safeguarding mechanism. Could you explain that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Promina. Yeah, this is the referral and safeguarding mechanism available. Referral is about the, we already mentioned about the response plan. For example, if we are working with the children with sexual experience or women with domestic violence, for example, and in the middle of our interview, they have remember about what happened in the past. So this is make a traumatic. And sometimes they crying in the middle of we interview them, and we ask them, do you need help to speak with psychology or something, or for example, referral system, So I already have mentioned about we have a form of the referral, So for all of the topic that the sensitive issue, we should have about this, even though about the domestic violence, issue disability maybe, for example, but I think it's very important for the sensitive issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Just one comment. Right. I got the same experience what you explained regarding the report that in your case, like what you explained about situation in Bandung Pos, which is something negative. In my experience, is the report is something positive, all right? And the person insists that it is okay to give the illustration, right? But actually, it turns out that what something positive by the author or researcher is not the same thing that expected by the respondent. So the respondent, for example, they already spend money in terms of promotion that the institution like this, and then the report, although this is positive, but it is not the same thing as the narration provided by the institution. So it is also become the issues of ethics. So I said to the authors, so from beginning, better to just use pseudonym or alias name or different name in order that, even it is something positive, but also better to just cover up the real institution name. And that's the sharing information.
I think enough for our question and answer session. Now we move to another one. We would like to have a special moment, like to express our sincere appreciation because Dr. Yanti is here, and then I would like to invite Prof. Nina and Dr. Yanti to have a token of appreciation. Please give the warm applause.
Oh, di situ Ibu, siapa namanya yang mau lihat foto? Oh, Ibu Des mau nggak kelihatan di situ. Oke. Nggak apa-apa kan kalau mau di depan fotonya, biar kelihatan audiennya. Kasih ini dari Ibu Yantis Office. Oke, terima kasih Bu Yanti. Terima kasih, Prof. Terima kasih, Sarah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now reached to the end of today's session. On behalf of the Faculty of Education, Universitas Islam International Indonesia, and the organizing committee, we'd like to thank for all of us today, and then please give applause for all of us today. Thank you, Dr. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.